May 2nd, 1945, just before dawn. The jagged peaks of the Bavarian Alps loom like silent sentinels over the winding mountain road near Riet on the Austrian border. The air is crisp, biting cold, carrying the faint scent of pine and damper from the overnight mist that clings to the valleys below. You hear the crunch of boots on gravel, slow, deliberate steps, as a patrol from the U.S. 44th Infantry Division's anti-tank company pushes forward through the thinning fog. Private First Class Fred Schneekert grips his M1 Garand rifle tighter, his breath visible in short puffs, mixing with the low hum of a distant stream. The men are exhausted, their olive-drab uniforms mud-caked from days of slogging to collapsing Reich. But the war isn't over yet. Pockets of SS fanatics still lurk in these hills, ready to ambush any Allied advance. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig underfoot or the faint rattle of equipment straps. Sergeant Harlan Mitchell, leading the squad, signals a halt with a raised fist. His eyes scan the tree lean, heart pounding from the weight of his Thompson submachine gun and the gnawing uncertainty. They've been on high alert since crossing into this rugged terrain yesterday afternoon. Reports filtering over the radio about desperate German holdouts, Wehrmacht remnants, Hitler Youth, even rumors of werewolf guerrillas sabotaging bridges and sniping from ridges. The patrol's orders are simple. Secure the pass, scout for enemy positions, and link up with the main column by noon. But in these mountains, every shadow could hide a Panzerfaust or machine gun nest. Mitchell wipes sweat from his brow, despite the chill, feeling the rough stubble on his chin. The men fan out, taking cover behind boulders and fallen logs, their breaths shallow, ears straining for any unnatural sound. Then it comes, a soft whirring, like bicycle wheels on wet pavement, echoing up from the bend in the road ahead. The squad freezes. Schneekert cocks his head, pulse racing. Is it a scout? A diversion? Weapon snap-up? Fingers hovering over triggers. Mitchell whispers harshly, hold fire, eyes sharp. The whirring grows louder, accompanied by the faint scrape of pedals. Out of the mist emerges a lone figure on a bicycle, pedaling unsteadily toward them. He's civilian-clad, no uniform. But in these parts, that means nothing. Spies and saboteurs dressed to blend in. The man spots the Americans and slows, raising one hand tentatively. His face is pale, gone from weeks on a run, eyes wide with a mix of fear and calculation. "Don't shoot," he calls in accented English, his voice cutting to the dawn hush like a knife. The squad tenses, barrels trained on him. Schneekert's mind races. Trap? Surrender? The cyclist dismounts, hands up, bicycle clattering to the ground. He's young, mid-20s, with disheveled hair and a coat that's seen better days. Mitchell steps forward cautiously, covering him with the Thompson. "Who the hell are you?" "Hands where I can see him." The man nods frantically, complying. "My name is Magnus von Braun," he says, his words measured as if rehearsed. "I am a rocket engineer. My brother invented the V-2. We have a group up the hill, scientists, technicians. We want to surrender to the Americans." The words hang in the air, heavy as the fog. V-2? The squad exchanges glances. They've heard the stories. The terror weapons raining down on London, Antwerp, blasting craters without warning. But here in the Alps, Mitchell's jaw tightens. Is this a trick? A ploy to draw them into an ambush? Schneekert feels a chill unrelated to the cold. His rifle steady, but his mind swirling. The Germans have been collapsing for weeks, but rockets? That's intelligence gold, or a deadly lure. Magnus continues, voice urgent. "We have documents, plans. Hidden. But the SS, they have orders to kill us all, destroy everything. The Soviets are close too. You must come quickly." Mitchell radios back to Company HQ, the static crackling like gunfire in the quiet. "Patrol to base. We got a German on a bike, claiming to be some rocket guy's brother. Talking surrender. V-2 secrets. Advise." The response is delayed, the operator's voice tinny. "Hold position. Interrogate." Brass is notified. But as the minutes tick by, the mist begins to lift, revealing more of the road snaking up the mountain. Magnus shifts nervously, glancing back the way he came. Up there, Hidden in a chalet or cave, his brother Werner von Braun waits with a broken arm from a recent crash, the pain throbbing as he paces, wondering if this gamble will pay off. The group, over 100 engineers, huddles with their families, exhausted from evading Himmler's execution squads, their precious cargo of blueprints buried in a distant mine. Schneekert lowers his rifle slightly, but the tension coils tighter. What if this is real? What if these plans could change everything, the wars and the future? But doubts creep in. Why surrender now? What's the catch? Mitchell presses Magnus for details, names, numbers, locations, but the German is cagey, insisting on guarantees. The squad spreads out, watching the flanks, ears attuned to any rustle in the underbrush. A bird calls sharply, and weapons jerk up again. Time stretches, each second laden with possibility and peril. If this is legitimate, they've stumbled onto something bigger than any battle they fought. But if it's a setup, well, these mountains have swallowed patrols before. As the sun crests the peaks, casting long shadows, a faint engine rumble echoes from a valley. Reinforcements? Or something worse? The Americans exchange uneasy looks, realizing this encounter might not be the end of their patrol, but the spark of a desperate scramble where the stakes aren't just lives, but the very weapons that could redefine power in the shattered world emerging from the war. The sun climbs higher over the Bavarian peaks, burning off the last wisps of mist, but the chill lingers in the bones of the American patrol. 0630 hours now. Sergeant Harlan Mitchell stands with his Thompson pointed loosely at Magnus von Braun, who remains on his knees beside the overturned bicycle, hands still raised. The squad holds their positions behind cover, eyes flicking between the German and the Trilene. Private Schneekert's fingers ache from gripping his Garand too tightly. He can feel the sweat pooling under his helmet strap despite the morning cold. No one speaks. The only sound is a faint ticking of cooling metal on the bicycle frame and the distant, irregular thud of artillery far to the east, probably the French First Army pushing up from the south. Mitchell's radio crackles again. This time it's Captain Richard Hall, commanding officer of Anti-Tank Company, 44th Infantry Division. His voice is clipped, urgent. Mitchell, confirm you have a high-value surrender offer. Do not, I repeat, do not move the subject until we get confirmation from Division Intelligence. Hold your ground. We're sending a liaison officer and a security detail. ETA 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Watch for SS activity. Reports say Kamler's people are hunting these same rocket boys. Out! Kamler. The name lands like a cold stone in every man's gut. SS Obergruppenführer Hans Kamler, head of the V-weapon program, Himmler's butcher. Word has trickled down the ranks for weeks. As the Reich collapses, Kamler has standing orders to liquidate the scientists rather than let them fall into Allied hands. No witnesses, no secrets for the enemy. Schneekert swallows hard, scanning the ridgeline. 45 minutes feels like a lifetime out here in the open. Magnus shifts on his knees, voice low but insistent. You don't understand. The SS unit is already close, maybe 2 kilometers behind me. They know we're trying to defect. If they arrive first, he trails off, eyes darting up the road that twists into pines. Mitchell studies him, gaunt face, expensive but filthy coat, hands trembling not just from cold. The man isn't lying about fear. That much is clear. Mitchell makes the call. All right, we're moving you off the road. Schneekert, Kowalski, cover the flanks. Rest of you, bounding overwatch up the slope to that rock outcrop. We hold there until our people arrive. The squad acknowledges with quiet clicks of safeties and the soft crunch of boots. Magnus is pulled to his feet, wrists loosely bound with bootlaces, just in case. He doesn't resist. They move uphill in short rushes, 20 meters at a time, one fire team covering while the other displaces. The terrain is steep, loose shale underfoot, pine needles slick with dew. Every man's lungs burn within minutes. You feel the weight of the pack straps cutting into shoulders, the slap of the rifle sling against your chest, the constant itch between your shoulder blades where an unseen sniper might be lining up a shot. Halfway up, Corporal Kowalski freezes and raises a fist. Everyone drops. He points. Thin wisps of smoke rising from a chimney, perhaps a kilometer further up the valley, where the road bends toward the village of Aberjak. Someone's awake up there. Friendly? Hostile? Impossible to tell. At the outcrop they dig in shallow. Helmets just below the crest. Rifles rested on rocks. Magnus is placed behind a boulder, guarded by Private First Class Louis Ortega, who keeps his carbine muzzle inches in the German's ribs. Time crawls. 0700 0715. The sun is fully up now, glinting off distant snowfields, turning the valley into a dazzling bowl that hides every shadow. Mitchell tries the radio again for an update. Static, then a faint voice. Heavy traffic, delaying, the signal dies. Battery low or mountains blocking. Either way, no help. Magnus speaks quietly to Ortega, who translates in a whisper to Mitchell. He says his brother and the main group are in a hunting lodge 2 kilometers north, with about 120 engineers, technicians, family members. The blueprints and critical documents are not with them, hidden in a mine shaft near Middlework, but they have lists, diagrams, photographs in suitcases. He says if the SS catches them, they'll shoot the men and take the women and children hostage to force silence. Mitchell nods slowly, mind racing. If this is real, Division will want the whole group intact. But if the SS shows up first, the sergeant glances at his watch. Still 30 minutes minimum until the liaison arrives. He orders a squad to conserve ammo, no smoking, absolute silence. Then you hear it. Engines. Not the deep growl of American trucks, but higher-pitched, lighter. Opel Blitz trucks, maybe Cubawagens, coming from the direction Magnus fled. The sound echoes off the mountains, making distance impossible to judge. Could be 1 kilometer, could be 3. The men tense, pressing lower behind the rocks. Schneekert's mouth goes dry. He checks his 8-round M-block clip for the 3rd time, thumb brushing the brass. Kowalski mutters a prayer under his breath. The engines grow louder, then cut off abruptly. Doors slam, sharp, metallic reports carrying clearly in the thin air. Voices now German, clipped and angry. Orders barked. Boots on gravel. They're on the same road to patrol, just left. Mitchell risks a peek with his binoculars. Down at the bend, 3 gray-painted vehicles. SS runes visible on the fenders. Black uniforms. At least a platoon, 25, 30 men. Spreading out, weapons up, scanning the slopes. One officer gestures sharply toward the abandoned bicycles still lying in the road. They found the trail. Magnus whispers desperately. They'll sweep the hills. They know the routes we use. Ortega translates, voice tight. Mitchell's mind spins through options. Stay hidden and hope the SS passes. Engage and risk annihilation. Or break contact and try to reach the rocket group first. But any movement now will be seen. The SS troops begin fanning out in skirmish lines, moving up slope with practice efficiency. Veterans, not desperate conscripts. The Americans watch, motionless, hearts hammering. A crow takes flight from a nearby pine, cawing loudly. Head snapped toward the sound. One SS soldier pauses, submachine gun raised, staring straight toward the outcrop. Seconds stretch into eternity. Has he seen them? Will he call it out? The tension coils tighter minute by minute as the black uniforms creep closer up the mountain, and the promised American reinforcements are still nowhere in sight. 0745 hours. The SS skirmish line is now less than 400 meters downslope, moving steadily upward in stagger bounds, one section covering while the other advances. Their black uniforms stand out starkly against the green-brown of the pines. Sergeant Mitchell counts at least 28 men, maybe more in the trees he can't see. 2 MG, 42 machine guns are already being set up on the road behind a stone wall, one aimed straight up the main trail the Americans used minutes ago. The belt-fed chatter hasn't started yet, but the threat hangs in the air like smoke. Mitchell lowers his binoculars and crawls back behind the outcrop. His squad is flat against the earth, faces pale, eyes locked on him for orders. Private Schneekert's breathing is shallow and fast. Corporal Kowalski is mouthing silent words, fingers white on his bar. Magnus von Braun lies prone beside Ortega, face pressed into the pine needles, whispering urgently in German. Ortega translates in a hiss. He says the SS officer leading them is Major Comer, Kammler's personal enforcer. He won't take prisoners if he finds the scientists. Burn everything. Shoot everyone. Mitchell's mind races through the map he memorized last night. The hunting lodge Magnus described as 2 kilometers north along a narrow logging track that branches off the slope. Maybe 40 minutes of hard climbing if unopposed. But the SS is already cutting off the direct route. Staying here means being pinned and eventually flanked. Engaging means almost certain annihilation against superior numbers and automatic weapons. Running means abandoning the hope of reinforcements and risking leading the SS straight to the rocket team. The radio crackles once more. Weak signal from Captain Hall. Mitchell, update. Liaison officer is en route with armored jeeps. ETA now 30 mics. Hold if you can. Do not let the subject fall back to enemy hands. Priority is the intelligence. Acknowledge. Mitchell keys a handset. Voice low. Copy. Enemy platoon closing on our position. SS, we may have to displace north to secure the main group. Will advise. He releases the button before Hall can argue. Decision time. Mitchell gathers a squad in a tight huddle behind the rocks. Listen up. We're not waiting here to get surrounded. We take the prisoner. We break contact. And we move fast to link up with the rocket scientists before the SS does. If we get there first, we hold the lodge until the liaison arrives. If we fail, those plans go up in flames or into Soviet hands. Questions? No one speaks. They all know what's at stake. Schneekert nods grimly. Kowalski racks a bolt on his Browning automatic rifle with metallic clack. Mitchell turns to Magnus. You're guiding us. Fastest route to your brother. No tricks. You slow us down, you die first. Understand. Magnus meets his eyes and nods once. Mitchell plots the move. They'll slip west along the contour of the slope, using a shallow ravine for cover, then cut north through dense timber before swinging back to the logging track. It adds distance, but avoids the open ground the SS is sweeping. Bounding Overwatch again. Half the squad moving while the other covers and suppresses if spotted. 0800 hours. First bound. Kowalski and 2 riflemen lay down a base of fire from the outcrop. Short, controlled bursts from the bar, and a couple of M1S toward the SS positions. The sharp cracks echo across the valley. The SS immediately return fire. MG-42s open up with their terrifying high-rate rip, bullets snapping to the pines overhead, showering the Americans with splinters and needles. Tracers streak red across the slope. Everyone hugs the dirt, while the fire pins the enemy. Mitchell leads a rest. Magnus in the center, hands still loosely tied, down into the ravine in a crouched sprint. Boots slide on loose gravel. Packs bounce heavily. You feel the burn in your thighs, the sting of pine sap in your nostrils, the constant fear of a bullet catching you mid-stride. 30 meters. 50. They drop into the shallow cut, chest high, cover at best, and wait for the covering team to break. Kowalski's bar hammers again. Long burst this time. Then the 3 men are up and running, zigzagging downslope toward the ravine. An SS machine gun traverses, chewing bark and earth just behind their heels. One man, Private Dorsey, stumbles, hit in the leg. He goes down hard with a sharp cry. The others drag him the last 10 yards into cover. Blood soaks his trouser leg instantly. Dorsey bites down on his sleeve to stifle the screams, while Ortega slaps a sulfa pad and tight bandage on the wound. No time to linger. Mitchell checks the map again, compass in hand. Northwest 200 meters, then hard north. Move. They hauled Dorsey between 2 men, his arms over their shoulders, hopping on his good leg. Magnus leads, surprisingly sure-footed despite bound wrists. The ravine twists like a snake, shielding them from direct view, but the sound of the firefight behind grows fainter only slowly. Minutes bleed away. 0815, 0820. The terrain steepens. The ravine narrows, forcing them into single file. Breath comes in ragged gasps. Sweat stings eyes. Every man scans rearward constantly, expecting black uniforms to appear at any moment. Overhead, a flight of P-47 Thunderbolts roars across the sky, American air cover for the advancing divisions, but too high and too far to help a single squad in the mountains. Then Magnus halts abruptly, raising a hand. Ahead, The ravine opens into a small clearing ringed by thick firs. A narrow footbridge crosses a fast-moving stream, snowmelt swollen and loud. Beyond it, the logging track begins. But on the far side, fresh boot prints in the mud. German jackboots, deep impressions, heading both directions. Someone has been here recently. Mitchell signals a stop. The squad drops, weapons up. Dorsey is lowered gently, face gray from pain and blood loss. Kowalski crawls forward to the edge of the trees, peering across. After a long moment, he whispers back, "Movement." 200 meters up the track. Gray uniforms, Wehrmacht, not SS, looks like a rear guard section, maybe 10 men, digging in around a bend. Mitchell curses under his breath. Flanked on both sides now. SS pushing from the south, Wehrmacht holding the northern route. The rocket team is somewhere beyond that bend, perhaps already under siege. Reinforcements still 20 minutes out at best, and the squad is down one wounded man, low on ammo after covering fire. Choice is narrowed to a razor's edge. Force the bridge and fight to the Wehrmacht position. Try to outflank through even steeper terrain with a wounded man, or dig in here and hope the liaison arrives before the SS catches up. Mitchell looks at Magnus, then at his exhausted, bloodied squad. The weight of command presses down harder than any pack. Whatever he decides in the next 60 seconds will determine whether the V-2 secrets and the men guarding them fall to the Americans, the Soviets, or are destroyed forever. The stream rushes loudly beside them, drowning out the distant gunfire as the sergeant weighs lives against history. 0825 hours. The mountain stream roars beside the squad, white water churning over rocks, masking smaller sounds, but doing nothing to ease the knot in every stomach. Sergeant Mitchell crouches at the edge of the tree line, studying the footbridge and the boot print beyond. 10 Wehrmacht soldiers, maybe more, dug in around a bend 200 meters up the logging track. Not fanatics like the SS behind them, but regular army, likely a rear guard left to cover the scientist's attempted defection, or simply holding a choke point out of habit. Either way, they block the direct path to the lodge. Mitchell weighs the map again, sweat beading under his helmet. Flanking left means climbing a near-vertical scree slope, with Dorsey bleeding and slowing them. Flanking right means crossing the stream higher up, losing more time. Straight ahead means a fight they might not win. He glances at Magnus, whose face is tight with urgency. "How many guards did your brother post?" Mitchell whispers. Magnus shakes his head. "None. We expected no resistance from our own side until the SS arrived. These men, they must be stragglers who don't know we're surrendering. A mistake then. The rocket team assumed the area was clear. Now a handful of confused Wehrmacht troops have turned a potential safe haven into a kill zone." Mitchell makes a call. We go straight, quiet as possible until we're on them. "Kowalski, you and I take point with the bar and Thompson. Grenades first if they spot us. Rest of you, lay down fire and rush the bridge. We can't afford prolonged shootout. The SS will hear it and close the noose." The squad nods. Dorsey is propped against a tree, carbine in his lap, face ashen. "Leave me here, Sarge. I'll hold the bridge if they come from behind." Mitchell hesitates, then clasps his shoulder. "Negative. You're coming with us. Ortega, you and Schneekert carry him." Dorsey protests weakly, but there's no time for argument. They move. Single file across the narrow footbridge. Planks creaking under weight, water roaring below. You feel the sway of the bridge, the slick wood under boots, the exposure with no cover. One by one they cross, weapons ready, eyes fixed on the bend ahead. No challenge yet. The Wehrmacht soldiers are out of sight around the curve, but their voices carry faintly. German, low, tired. 50 meters up the track now. The logging road is rutted, pine needles thick underfoot. Kowalski leads, bar cradled, moving from tree to tree. Mitchell follows, Thompson up. The rest trail in pairs, Dorsey half-carried between Ortega and Schneekert. The air smells of resin and damp earth. Birds have gone silent. Then the mistake reveals itself fully. As Kowalski rounds a bend, he freezes. 20 meters ahead, the Wehrmacht position is not a hasty roadblock, but a proper defensive setup. 2 fallen logs across the track, a light MG-34 on a bipod behind them, sandbags hastily piled, 6 riflemen crouched and alert. Worse, parked just off the track, since a half-track, canvas cover flapping. Its mounted 20mm cannon pointed down the road. The crew is brewing coffee on a small fire, but the gunner is at his post, helmeted head visible. They walk straight into a prepared ambush site. Kowalski drops flat. Mitchell dives beside him. Too late. The Wehrmacht sentry spots the movement. Achtung! Amerikaner. The shout splits the morning. Rifles snap up. The MG-34 gunner traverses his weapon with a metallic grind. Kowalski reacts first, bar roaring from prone, long burst stitching the log barricade, splintering wood, forcing heads down. Mitchell's Thompson joins in, short bursts walking across the position. The rest of the squad scatters into the trees on both sides of the track, returning fire. M1S cracks steadily, carbines popping. Tracers from the MG-34 whip overhead, chewing branches. The Americans have surprise on their side for exactly 3 seconds. Then the 20mm cannon on the half-track opens up. The first shell detonates in the treetops above Schneekert and Ortega, showering them with splinters and pine shards. The second round hits the track 10 meters in front of Mitchell, blasting a crater and sending gravel whipping like shrapnel. The concussion slams everyone to the ground. Ortega cries out, hit in the arm, blood spraying. Dorsey, dropped into chaos, crawls for cover dragging his wounded leg. Schneekert grabs him by the collar and hauls him behind a thick trunk as another 20mm round explodes nearby. The air fills with cordite, smoke, and the deafening thud-thud-thud of the cannon. Mitchell screams orders over the din. Grenades! Take out that gun. Kowalski belly crawls forward, yanking a fragmentation grenade from his belt. He pulls the pin, cooks it for 2 beats, and hurls in a high arc toward the half-track. It lands short, exploding in the road and peppering the vehicle with fragments. The gunner ducks, but the cannon keeps firing. Wild now, rounds tearing into the forest indiscriminately. A second grenade, from Private Kowalski's partner, lands closer behind the barricade. The blast silences the MG-34 momentarily and sends 2 Wehrmacht soldiers sprawling, one not moving again. But the cannon resumes, forcing the squad deeper into cover. Magnus, hands still bound, huddles behind a rock, shouting in German toward the position. Nicht Skiessen, we're Urgeben UNS den Amerikanern. Von Braun. His voice is desperate, trying in the fight before it escalates further. One Wehrmacht soldier hesitates, rifle half-raised, confusion on his face. But the officer beside him snaps an order and fire intensifies. Minutes stretch into a brutal stalemate. The Americans are pinned 20 meters from the barricade, unable to advance or retreat without crossing open ground under the 20mm. Ammo burns fast. Kowalski's bar magazine clicks empty. He slams a fresh one. Schneekert's Garen pings as the M-block clip ejects. The SS, miles behind but closing, will have heard the cannon by now. Mitchell risks a look. The half-track gunner's exposed, reloading a fresh belt. One clear shot, but the range is long for a submachine gun. Then he spots movement further up the track. Figures running from the tree line toward the lodge. Civilians in coats, some carrying suitcases. The rocket team, hearing the battle, starting to scatter in panic. If the scientists run, the plans scatter with them. If the squad retreats, the Wehrmacht will hold the road, and the SS will arrive to finish the job. Mitchell's choices are collapsed into one impossible gamble. Silence that cannon and push through now, or lose everything they bled for in the last hour. The cannon thunders again, a shell exploding just behind him, showering him with dirt and pine needles as he presses his face into the earth, waiting for the one opening that might not come. 0835 hours. The logging track has become a cauldron of smoke and splintered wood. The 20mm cannon on a half-track thunders again and again, each shell detonating with a vicious crack that shakes the ground and sends pine trunks exploding into showers of lethal fragments. The air is thick with the acrid bite of high explosive and burning resin. Every breath tastes of cordite and fear. Sergeant Mitchell presses his body flat into the shallow depression he scraped with his entrenching tool, helmet tilted forward, dirt grinding into his cheek. 10 meters to his left, Kowalski is reloading the bar for the third time, fingers trembling as he jams a magazine home. Schneeker and Ortega have dragged Dorsey deeper into the trees on the right flank, but Dorsey's moans carry over to gunfire, low, animal sounds of pain that no one can silence. Ortega's own arm is slick with blood. He's tied a tourniquet with his belt, face gray, but he keeps firing his carbine one-handed whenever the cannon pauses. Magnus von Braun lies beside Mitchell, hands still bound, face pressed into the needles. His expensive coat is torn and filthy now, eyes wide and unblinking. Every explosion makes him flinch hard, as if expecting the next shell to land directly on him. He whispers in German, voice cracking, and Mitchell catches only fragments. Bitte mein Frau die Kinder, please my wife, the children. The psychological weight settles heavier with every passing minute. No one has spoken a full sentence in 10 minutes. Words feel useless. The men are down to counting heartbeats between cannon blasts, counting rounds left in magazines, counting seconds until the SS arrives from the rear. You feel the exhaustion creeping in despite the adrenaline. Thighs burning from the earlier climb, shoulders raw from pack straps, mouth so dry it hurts to swallow. The mind starts playing tricks. Every rustle in the underbrush sounds like boots closing in, every distant shout like an order to flank. Kowalski risks a glance over his log. The Wehrmacht position is still holding. 4 or 5 riflemen feeding belts into the MG. 34. Whenever it heats up, the half-track are calm and methodical, traversing slowly as if he is all day. Kowalski ducks as another shell bursts overhead, showering him with pine shards that ping off his helmet. He looks at Mitchell, eyes hollow. We're not getting that gun without losing half the squad, Sarge. Maybe more. Mitchell doesn't answer immediately. He's staring at the civilians he glimpsed earlier, now gone, scattered into the forest. If the rocket team panics completely, the scientists will disappear into the mountains, taking their knowledge with them. Some might even try to reach the Soviets advancing from the east. The thought twists like a knife. All this blood, and the prize could still slip away. A low falls. The cannon stops, perhaps reloading, perhaps waiting for movement. In the sudden relative quiet, the stream's roar returns, along with the ringing in everyone's ears. Mitchell keys his radio one last time, whispering. Static, then a faint voice, Captain Hall. Jeeps, 5 minutes out. Hold, the signal cuts. 5 minutes. An eternity under this fire. Ortega calls softly from the right, voice strained. Dorsey's fading Sarge. Lost a lot of blood. Mitchell crawls over, keeping low. Dorsey's face is waxen, eyes half-lidded, breath shallow. The leg wound is ugly. Compound fracture, artery nicked despite the bandage. Mitchell presses a fresh sulfur packet against it, but the blood keeps seeping. Dorsey tries to speak, lips moving soundlessly, then manages a cracked whisper. Don't leave me for them. Mitchell grips his shoulder hard. We're not leaving anyone. But even as he says it, doubt gnaws. The squad is fracturing under the strain. Wounded, low on ammo, pinned by a weapon they can't answer. The men's faces show it. Schneekert staring blankly at his rifle, Kowalski chewing his lip until it bleeds, Ortega rocking slightly as he cradles his shattered arm. Magnus crawls closer, voice urgent but quiet. There is another way. A footpath, steep, hidden. My brother showed me. It loops above the lodge, comes down behind it. The soldiers won't see us if we go now. Mitchell stares at him. A detour through even worse terrain, carrying wounded, risking total exhaustion. But the alternative is bleeding out here while the cannon chews them apart. Mitchell looks back toward the Wehrmacht position. Smoke drifts across the track. The gunner is scanning, waiting. Then, faint but growing, the growl of diesel engines from the south. Not American jeeps. Heavier. Half-tracks. The SS, drawn by the gunfire, closing the trap faster than anyone expected. Time has run out. Mitchell makes the only choice left. We break contact. New route, Magnus leads. We carry Dorsey. Kowalski, one more mag to cover us. Then we move. On my mark. The men nod slowly, faces grim. No one believes it will be easy. Kowalski slams the last magazine into the bar, pulls the charging handle. You feel the collective dread as they prepare to rise and run under fire. Knowing some won't make the tree line, knowing the mountain itself might kill the rest before the enemy does. Kowalski looks at Mitchell one last time, waiting for the word. The cannon begins to traverse again, searching for targets. The SS engines grow louder minute by minute. Every second now is borrowed, and the squad knows it. 0840 hours. The forest is a haze of gun smoke and drifting pine resin. Sergeant Mitchell gives a nod. Kowalski rises to one knee behind his log, bar steady, and squeezes off a long, deliberate burst. 20 rounds walking across the half-track's front armor and forcing the gunner to duck. Tracer spark off steel. The Wehrmacht riflemen return fire, but their attention is fixed forward. That's the opening. Mitchell shouts, "Go! Go!" The squad surges up from cover in a ragged line, half carrying the wounded. Schneekert and another man haul Dorsey between them. Ortega stumbles along, clutching his carbine with his good arm. Magnus scrambles ahead, pointing toward a faint deer trail that angles sharply upslope into thicker timber. Boots pound earth, packs bounce, breath rasps in raw throats. The 20mm cannon traverses late. Its first shell detonates in the empty space they've just left, showering the track with dirt. The second round clips a pine 30 meters behind, toppling it in a crash of branches. Kowalski walks backward, firing short bursts to keep heads down, until his bar clicks empty. He slings it, draws his .45, and sprints to catch up. They plunge into the trees. The trail Magnus promised is barely there, a narrow, root-tangled path climbing almost vertically along a rocky spine. Hands grab sapling for leverage. Loose shale skitters underfoot. Dorsey's dead weight slows them cruelly. Every 10 meters they have to pause, shift grips, wipe sweat from eyes. You feel the burning calves and lungs, the slick of blood on hands. Dorsey's or Ortega's, impossible to tell anymore. The roar of the stream fades behind, replaced by the squad's labored breathing and the occasional crack of branches. Behind them, shouted German orders echo up the slope. The Wehrmacht is reorganizing, but the heavier diesel growl of the approaching SS half-tracks is unmistakable now, closing from the south along the logging road. The two enemy forces will link up in minutes. 0850 hours. The path crests a knife-edge ridge, then drops steeply into a hidden ravine thick with firs. Magnus whispers hoarsely, "Almost there. Down this draw. Lodge is 200 meters." Mitchell risks a glance back. Through gaps in the canopy, he sees black uniformed figures spreading into the forest below, moving fast with the confidence of hunters who know the prey is wounded. They half slide, half run down the ravine. Rocks clatter. Someone slips and crashes into brush, cursing. At the bottom, the ground levels into a small alpine meadow ringed by dense trees. And there, 60 meters ahead, stands a hunting lodge, a sturdy two-story chalet with dark timber walls, wide eaves, and a stone chimney trailing thin smoke. Suitcases and crates are piled haphazardly on the porch. Figures move frantically behind windows. Civilians, some in lab coats, others in civilian clothes, a few children clinging to parents. But between the squad and the lodge, 30 meters of open grass. No cover. Mitchell signals a halt at the tree-line. The men collapse behind trunks and boulders, chests heaving. Dorsey is lowered gently. His eyes are closed now, breathing shallow. Ortega slumps beside him, tourniquet dark with blood. Kowalski checks his pockets. 2 grenades left, half a pistol magazine. The rest of the squad is little better. Magnus crawls forward. "They know me. Let me call out." Mitchell nods. Magnus stands slowly, hands raised despite the bindings, and shouts in German. "Werner, es Magnus. Amerikaner sind bei mir. Nicht Skiasen." His voice echoes across the meadow. A window on the upper floor opens. A man leans out. Tall, thin, left arm in a sling, face pale but composed. Werner von Braun. He stares for a long moment, then calls back, voice carrying clearly. "Magnus? Gott sei Dank. Komm hierin schnell." But before anyone can move, a new sound cuts through the morning. Engines again, this time from the north. Not American. A single Kubel wagon bursts from the trees on the far side of the meadow, skidding to a halt beside the lodge. Four SS officers climb out, pistols drawn, faces grim. One, tall, thin-lipped, wearing the insignia of a major, strides toward the porch, barking orders. Civilians freeze. Children are pulled inside. Werner von Braun disappears from a window. The SS has arrived first, from an entirely different direction. Mitchell's stomach drops. The scientists are now effectively hostages, inside their own surrender site. The SS Major, Kummer, almost certainly, gestures sharply and his men spread out, taking positions behind the parked vehicle and the corner of the lodge. One levels an MP, 40 toward the tree-line where the Americans hide. Magnus whispers, voice breaking. They'll execute the senior staff immediately. Burn the documents. Kamler's orders. Mitchell scans a meadow. 30 meters of open ground, lightly sloping upward to the lodge. No ditches, no rocks big enough for cover. The SS has the building sealed. The Wehrmacht and additional SS are minutes behind through the forest. American jeeps, somewhere, still haven't appeared. The entire operation balances on a razor's edge. Charge across open ground into SS guns to try to secure the lodge, attempt to negotiate with men who have orders to kill rather than surrender scientists, or pull back and let the secrets be destroyed. Every man in the squad looks to Mitchell. Dorsey's breathing has gone ragged. Ortega is barely conscious. Ammo is down to scraps. The sun climbs higher, indifferent. Then, faint but growing from the south, the unmistakable high-pitched snarl of American jeeps, Willis M. Beast with .50 caliber mounts, engines screaming as they climb the logging track. They finally arrive, but they'll hit the Wehrmacht/SS blocking force first. Minutes of delay at best. Mitchell realizes a critical turning point has arrived in a single frozen moment. The next action, taken in the next 60 seconds, will decide whether the V-2 secrets and the men who hold them survive to reach American hands or vanish forever in fire and blood on this remote alpine meadow. The SS Major on the porch raises a megaphone, voice cold and commanding across the grass. Amerikaner, kommen Sie MIT Erhobin in hand and arouse. Oder will begin MIT den Executionen. The clock is ticking louder than any gunfire. 0855 hours. The alpine meadow lies frozen in deadly tableau. 30 meters of open grass separate the exhausted American squad, hunkered at the tree-line, from the hunting lodge where SS Major Kummer now holds complete control. His 4 officers have fanned out, 2 covering the porch with MP40s, 1 herding terrified civilians deeper inside, the 4th scanning the forest with binoculars. Kummer's amplified voice rings out again, cold and precise. You have 1 minute to surrender your weapons and show yourselves. After that, we begin with the first execution. Dr. von Braun himself. Inside the lodge, muffled cries filter through the windows. A woman's voice pleads in German. Children whimper. Werner von Braun's silhouette appears briefly at an upper window, hands raised, arguing fiercely with an unseen SS man behind him. Suitcases of documents sit stacked in the main hall, diagrams, test data, guidance system schematics, everything the Americans have bled for all morning. Sergeant Mitchell's squad is at the breaking point. Dorsey lies unconscious now, pulse-ready. Ortega has passed out beside him, blood loss finally winning. The remaining 5 men, Mitchell, Kowalski, Schneekert, and 2 others, have perhaps 50 rounds between them, 2 grenades, and no clear shot. You feel the raw ache in every muscle, the copper taste of fear in the mouth, the maddening itch of helplessness as the seconds drain away. From the south, the Jeep engines scream closer. 4, maybe 5 Willis and Beast with a liaison officer and a security platoon from the 44th Division. But the logging track is still blocked by the Wehrmacht half-track and the arriving SS reinforcements. Gunfire erupts down there now. Sharp American .50 caliber machine guns answering German MG-34s and a 20mm cannon. The fight is minutes away from spilling into the meadow, but minutes are luxury no one here has. Mitchell weighs impossible. Charge across open ground, and they're cut down before covering half the distance. Stay hidden, and the executions begin. He glances at Magnus, whose face is streaked with dirt and tears. Is there any other way into the building? He whispers. Magnus nods slowly. Servant's entrance, rear basement door, hidden by a firewood stack. But it's locked from inside and guarded now, I'm sure. Kowalski crawls closer. We could split. I take the 2 grenades, draw fire from the left. Rest of you rush the porch while they're distracted. His voice is flat, accepting. Schneeker just stares at the lodge, knuckles white on his garand. 0900 hours. Cummer's minute is up. He lowers the megaphone and nods to the officer inside. The shot rings out, sharp, single pistol crack from an upper room. A woman screams. Then silence. Mitchell's blood runs cold. Was that Von Braun? One of the senior engineers? The message is clear. They are not bluffing. But the shot has consequences. Inside the lodge, the scientists, over 100 desperate, brilliant men who have spent years building the Reich's wonder weapons, reach their own breaking point. Shouts erupt in German. Furniture crashes. A scuffle. The SS officer on the porch turns sharply toward the door, MP 40 raised. Then the front door bursts open. Werner von Braun staggers out first, left arm still in sling, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead, propelled by 2 SS men with pistols to his back. Behind him come 3 more senior engineers, Dornberger, Steinhoff, another, hands raised, faces pale but defiant. The remaining civilians are being held deeper inside as insurance. Cummer steps forward, pistol drawn. On your knees, he orders in German. Von Braun complies slowly, eyes scanning the tree-line. He knows the Americans are out there. He knows the clock is ticking. The Jeep convoy breaks through at last. A massive .50 caliber barrage rakes the logging track below. Tracers streaking red as the lead Jeep's gunner suppresses the Wehrmacht position. German return fire is ragged now. The 20 millimeters falls silent. Tires screech as the American vehicles skid around the bend. For Jeeps packed with infantry, a lieutenant waving men forward. But the meadow is still separated by thick forest. They'll arrive in 2 minutes, maybe 3. Cummer raises his pistol to Von Braun's head. Last chance, Americaner, he shouts toward the trees. Show yourselves or he dies now. Mitchell's mind races through the narrowing tunnel of options. The scientists on their knees. The SS distracted by the approaching engines. The rear entrance Magnus mentioned. The 2 grenades. The 50 rounds. He makes the call. Kowalski with me. Schneekert, you and the others lay down everything you got on my signal. Magnus, you're guiding us to that back door. We go now. They move, low and fast along the tree-line, skirting the meadow's edge under cover of the dense firs. Every step is agony. Boots slipping on needles, breath burning lungs, hearts hammering so loud it seems impossible the SS won't hear. 30 meters. 60. 90. The firewood stack comes into view at the rear corner of the lodge. Chest-high pile of split logs hiding a low wooden door. Gunfire erupt behind them. Schneekert's team opens up from the meadow edge, Garen's and the last bar magazine cracking steadily, forcing the SS to dive for cover around the Kubel wagon and porch. Cummer shouts orders, pistol still at Von Braun's head. Mitchell and Kowalski reach the stack with Magnus. The basement door is old oak, iron hinges, padlocked from outside, probably to keep deserters in. Ironically, Kowalski slams the lock twice with his rifle, but the hasp splinters. They ease the door open. Darkness inside. Stairs leading up. Smell of damp stone and coal. Voices overhead. SS boots pacing. A child crying somewhere deeper. They climb the narrow stair single file, weapons ready. At the top, a kitchen. Empty saucepans on hooks. A half-eaten breakfast abandoned on the table. Through the inner door, the main hall. Suitcases of documents still stacked. 2 SS officers guarding maybe 20 civilians huddled in the corner. Mitchell doesn't hesitate. Thompson up, Kowalski beside him with the .45. They step into the hall. The first SS man turns, eyes widening in shock. Mitchell's burst takes him center mass. He crumples without a sound. The second spins, raising his MP40, but Kowalski's pistol cracks twice, chest and head. The submachine gun clatters to the floor. Civilians gasp, freeze. A woman clutches 2 children to her chest. Outside, The gunfire intensifies, American jeeps bursting into the far end of the meadow now, .50 calibers hammering, infantry dismounting and advancing. The remaining SS on the porch are caught between two fires. Cummer's voice rises in fury, then cuts off abruptly as the .50s find the Kubel wagon. Mitchell strides to the front windows, Kowalski covering the stairs. He throws open a casement and shouts into the sudden chaos. U.S. Army, drop your weapons. It's over. The last SS resistance collapses in seconds. Hands raised, weapons tossed. American infantry swarm the porch, securing prisoners, checking the scientists. Von Braun rises slowly from his knees in the grass, staring toward the lodge as Mitchell emerges. Their eyes meet across the meadow. Two men who have never spoken, yet everything has just changed because of this morning. The gunfire dies away. Engines idle. Only wind in the pines and distant sobs remain. But the documents are still inside. The scientists are alive. And the war's technological future has just shifted irrevocably. The question now is whether the cost, Dorsey and Ortega lying motionless at the tree-lean, the blood on the kitchen floor, was the final price, or only the beginning. 0910 hours. The meadow falls eerily quiet, as if the mountains themselves are holding their breath after the storm of gunfire. The sharp echoes of the .50 calibers fade into the pines. Only the low idle of Jeep engines, the faint crackle of cooling metal on the shattered Kubel wagon, and the wind moving to the high branches remain. Smoke drifts lazily from the porch where the last SS officer lies motionless, MP 40 still clutched in his dead hand. American infantry from the security detail spreads out in practiced arcs, rifles trained on surrendered SS men. Three now, hands laced behind their heads, faces blank with the shock of defeat. Major Cummer is on his knees in the grass, blood soaking through his black tunic from a .50 round that caught him as he turned to fire. He stares at the ground, breathing ragged, the megaphone lying beside him like a discarded toy. Sergeant Mitchell steps out of the lodge doorway slowly, Thompson hanging loose at his side, barrel smoking. His uniform is torn and mud-streaked, face smeared with dirt and powder residue. Behind him, Kowalski emerges, pistol still in hand, eyes scanning for threats that no longer exist. The civilians inside begin to move, hesitant at first, then rushing to windows and the open door. Werner von Braun walks forward across the grass, left arm cradled in its sling, the cut on his forehead still seeping. He stops a few paces from Mitchell, meets his gaze, and nods once, silent acknowledgement between two men who had just gambled everything on the same desperate throw. The breakthrough has come, sudden and complete. Lieutenant James Carter, the liaison officer from Division Intelligence, jumps from the lead jeep and strides toward the lodge, helmet tucked under his arm. His men secure the perimeter, checking the dead, collecting weapons. Carter reaches Mitchell, clasps his shoulder hard. Good Christ, Sergeant, you held the whole damn thing together. Mitchell doesn't answer immediately. He's staring past the lieutenant toward the tree-lean, where Schneekert and the others are waving an all clear. Medics swarm in next. Two from the jeep convoy, kits slung, moving fast. They kneel first beside Dorsey and Ortega, still lie where the squad left them at the edge of the meadow. One medic shakes his head almost imperceptibly after checking Dorsey's pulse. The other works frantically on Ortega. Plasma bottle raised, scissors cutting away blood-soaked cloth. Ortega's chest rises shallowly. He's alive, barely. Inside the lodge, the atmosphere shifts from terror to stunned relief. Scientists embrace, some weeping openly. Children are brought out into the sunlight, blinking against the glare. Suitcases are open on the porch. Thick folders of blueprints, photographs of test stands at Piedmont, handwritten notes on guidance systems, propulsion formulas. Werner von Braun stands beside Lieutenant Carter as the intelligence officer flips through pages, eyes widening. This is the entire program. Von Braun says quietly in English, everything we could carry. The rest, the production drawings, the A4 hardware, is hidden in a mine near Nordhausen. We can take you there. Carter nods, already radioing division headquarters. The words high-value scientific personnel and complete V-2 documentation crackle over the net, voices rising in excitement back at regiment. The SS prisoners are herded into a tight group, wrists bound now with their own bootlaces. Cummer is carried to a jeep on a stretcher, conscious but silent, staring at the sky as if it belongs to someone else. The Wehrmacht soldiers from the logging track, though still alive, begin trickling in under guard, hands raised, faces hollow with the realization that the war has finally reached even this remote valley. Mitchell walks to the tree-line. Schneekert meets him halfway, Garen slung, face streaked with sweat and pine sap. They don't speak, just grip forearms for a long moment. Kowalski joins them, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands, the match flaring bright in the morning sun. The three survivors stand together, watching the medics work, watching the scientists gather their families and their precious papers. The cost is plain to see. Dorsey's body covered now with a poncho, Ortega loaded carefully into a jeep for evacuation, blood trails across the grass where wounded were dragged. Two other men from the squad sit against trees, minor wounds bandaged, staring at nothing. The lodge kitchen floor still bears dark stains that someone will have to mop eventually, but the breakthrough holds. The scientists are safe. The documents are intact. The war's technological edge, the terrifying potential ballistic missiles, has just shifted decisively into American hands, snatched from the ashes of the Reich in a single bloody morning. The sun climbs higher, warming the meadow, glinting off scattered brass casings. Birds begin to call again in the pines, tentative at first, then louder, as if reclaiming the silence the guns have left behind. No one cheers. No one celebrates. The men simply breathe and wait for the next order that will carry them, and the secrets they've won, down from these mountains. 0930 hours. The meadow has transformed into a makeshift command post under the bright alpine sun. Jeeps are parked in a loose semicircle around the lodge, engines ticking as they cool. American soldiers move with purpose, stacking captured German weapons in a pile, marking the dead with ponchos or blankets pulled from the vehicles, directing the scientists to gather on the wide porch for head count and initial debriefing. The air still carries the sharp tang of cordite and diesel, mixed now with the earthy smell of trampled grass and the faint metallic bite of blood. Flies have already found the bodies. Their low buzzing is the only persistent sound beneath the murmured conversations and the occasional crackle of radios. Sergeant Mitchell sits on an overturned crate near the firewood stack, helmet off, staring at his hands. They're crusted with dried blood, Dorsey's, Ortega's, maybe some of his own from small cuts he hasn't noticed yet. A medic offered him a sulfur packet earlier, but he waved it away. Kowalski stands nearby, smoking slowly, the cigarette trembling slightly between his fingers. Neither man has spoken in 20 minutes. Schneekert is helping load Dorsey's body onto a jeep tailgate, movements careful, almost gentle, as if the private might still feel the jostling. Inside the lodge, the main hall has become an impromptu intelligence center. Suitcases lie open on tables, blueprints and folders spread under the watchful eyes of Lieutenant Carter and two other officers. Werner von Braun sits in a wooden chair by the fireplace, left arm still slung, answering questions in calm, precise English. His brother Magnus stands beside him, translating occasionally for the older engineers who cluster nearby. Children sit quietly on the stairs, wide-eyed, clutching small bundles of belongings. Women move among them with cups of water drawn from the kitchen pump. No one has thought of food yet. Outside, the medics have done what they can. Ortega is stabilized in the back of a jeep, plasma dripping into his arm, morphine dulling the pain in his shattered elbow. He'll live, they say, but the arm may not be salvageable. Dorsey's poncho-covered form lies in another vehicle, waiting for the long ride down the mountain. Two other wounded GIs sit against the wheel, bandages fresh, sharing a canteen in silence. The SS prisoners, 3 unharmed, Cummer barely conscious on a stretcher, are guarded closely near the Kubel wagon's smoking wreckage. No one speaks to them. No one needs to. Their war ended here, in this meadow, with the secrets they were ordered to destroy now stacked neatly on American tables 30 meters away. Mitchell finally stands, legs stiff, and walks to the porch. Carter looks up from a folder of propulsion diagrams, nods acknowledgement. Your squad bought us the whole damn future, Sergeant. Division's already calling it the biggest intelligence coup of the European theater. Mitchell manages a tired nod, but his eyes drift to the bloodstains on the kitchen floor visible through the open door. Carter follows his gaze, voice softening. I'm putting you and your men in for silver stars. Every one of you. Mitchell doesn't reply. He steps inside instead, finds a quiet corner in the hall, and leans against the log wall. The wood is cool against his back. He closes his eyes for the first time in hours and simply breathes. Slow, deliberate breaths that taste of pine and smoke and the faint, lingering sweetness of someone's abandoned coffee from breakfast. Upstairs, a woman begins singing softly in German, a lullaby for one of the children who has finally started to cry. The sound drifts down the staircase, fragile but unbroken. Outside, the first convoy truck grunts its way up the logging track, come to carry the scientists, their families, and their papers down to division headquarters. Soldiers begin loading crates. Von Braun emerges from the lodge, pauses on the porch, and looks out over the meadow one last time, at the scattered brass, the blood-darkened grass, the bodies waiting under canvas. No one cheers. No one takes photographs. The moment is too heavy, too raw. The war in Europe is ending, but here, in this quiet aftermath, the next one, colder, faster, reaching higher than any battlefield, has already begun in folders of equations and sketches. Mitchell opens his eyes, pushes off the wall, and walks out to help load the trucks. There is still work to do. 1,000 hours. The last truck rumbles down the logging track, disappearing around the bend in a cloud of dust that settles slowly over the meadow. The convoy is gone. Scientists, families, crates of blueprints, wounded, prisoners, and the dead all carry away toward division headquarters, and whatever guarded camps or hospitals await them deeper in American lines. The meadow feels suddenly vast and empty. Only a rear guard detail remains. 6 GIs from the G platoon, tasked with policing the site before pulling out. They move methodically, collecting scattered equipment, pouring gasoline over the wrecked Kubel wagon, and half-track to deny anything useful to stragglers, stacking empty brass into ammo boxes. The smell of petrol mixes with the lingering cordite and a heavier, sweeter odor of blood baked under the climbing sun. Sergeant Mitchell stands alone on the lodge porch, helmet in hand. The building behind him is stripped now. Tables bare. Suitcases gone. Only a few forgotten papers fluttering the breeze through an open window. A child's small shoe lies on its side near the door, overlooked in the rush. Mitchell bends, picks it up, turns it over once in his palm, then sets it carefully on the windowsill. No one is coming back for it. Kowalski and Schneekert sit on the grass near the firewood stack, sharing the last of a Lucky Strike pack. Their rifles lean against a log beside them, muzzles dark with powder residue. Neither man smokes with any urgency. The cigarettes are just something to do with their hands. Kowalski exhales slowly, watching the smoke drift toward the peaks. Dorsey always said he wanted to see California after the war. He says quietly. Schneekert nods, eyes fixed on the ground between his boots. No one answers. There is nothing to say. A medic approaches Mitchell, offers a canteen. Mitchell takes it, drinks deeply. The water is warm and tastes faintly of canvas, but it cuts the dust in his throat. The medic hesitates, then speaks. Ortega's going to make it, Sarge. They radioed from the aid station. He's stable. Mitchell hands the canteen back, manages a tight nod. It's something. Not enough, but something. The sun is high now, shadows short and sharp. Flies drone over the dark patches in the grass, where blood soaked in deepest. One of the rear guard soldiers drags a pine bough across the worst stains, a half-hearted attempt to cover what can't be erased. The gesture feels pointless, but no one stops him. Mitchell walks down the steps and across the meadow to the spot where Dorsey fell. Nothing marks it now except trampled grass and a single discarded sulfur packet fluttering against a rock. He stands there a long moment, hands in pockets, staring at the ground as if expecting it to speak. It doesn't. Only the wind moves, carrying the faint scent of pine and snow from higher up the slopes. Kowalski joins him, cigarette burned down to a stub. They stand shoulder to shoulder, silent. After a while, Schneekert comes too. The 3 remaining men from the original squad form a small, wordless knot in the middle of the empty meadow. Far below in the valley, another convoy engine echoes faintly, probably supply trucks heading up to some other unit. The war goes on elsewhere. Here, it has simply stopped. Mitchell finally speaks, voice low and rough. Let's go home. They turn together, pick up their rifles, and walk toward the last waiting jeep. The driver revs the engine impatiently. As they climb aboard, Mitchell glances back once more, at the lodge with its open door swinging gently, at the meadow with its scattered scars, at the mountain standing indifferent as ever. The jeep pulls away, tires crunching on gravel. Dust rises behind it, obscuring the sight bit by bit until the meadow is alone again under sun. Only silence remains.